Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Coaching Mastery, happy Trends Day. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of hanging out with yet, I'm Noelle. I am the CEO and one of the founders of Lumia Coaching. I'm the lead trainer. My day job is often like herding squirrels at a glorious rave, and we have a really good time dancing it out to all things coaching. Today, we're going to be doing a special coaching mastery session on 2025 trends and things that are happening within the wellness marketplace that we need to be aware of as coaches. One of the things that I do as head of Lumia is I keep my eye on the market data. And market data is not traditionally something that's super sexy, but I like to know where the market is going, growing, and evolving from a consumer standpoint, so that I can bring that information back to our community, and so that you as coaches can define, redefine your niche, maybe think about different ways of serving different populations, stoke some creativity, and all of us can always be moving in line with what the wellness marketplace is doing. As a whole, coaching itself is housed within the wellness marketplace. This includes workforce wellness. This includes mental well-being. This includes hospitality. This includes beauty. This includes fitness. This includes relational fitness. All of the different sectors of our lives are housed within the wellness marketplace, and that's where we live as coaches, especially as life coaches. And I'm very excited to get into today's wealth of research. So what we're going to hit on today is some of the trends that are emerging in 2025. So typically, this comes to us from global think tanks in the wellness spaces to help coaches orient themselves to the trends. This comes from talking to lots of industry leaders. This comes from reading different economic reports. And this is by no means exhaustive. This is just my take on where we are at in the world and where we are going as we continue our work during a rapidly evolving time in history. So, every year, my lead piece of research is the Global Wellness Summit. They produce a comprehensive report looking at the global market data. And every year, I take this report and I drill down with it against several other different factors to check out the opportunities and influences. So, what are we looking at, and why do we care? Very specifically, the criteria that we're looking at are major long-term cultural or demographic shifts that will inevitably change the world of coaching and of wellness. We're also looking for major crises in human and planetary health. We are looking at the impact of wellness on our global population beyond the top 1%. And we are looking at trends that are truly new, but that won't be fleeting, things that have staying power that we're going to need to be collectively aware of for the purpose of enhancing our careers. So, one of the big things that's happening is right now, 2024 bridging into 2025, there has been a major split in the wellness marketplace. Now, I need to bring you back to pre-2020, when the wellness marketplace was largely focused on lotions and potions and spas and feel-good things that consumers would pick up almost as an afterthought, a luxury good, or something that was a nice to have. When 2020 happened, there was a major collective global shift towards wellness, bridging from something that's nice to have towards something that we need to have, something that can, in fact, be life saving in terms of our physical, mental, emotional, financial, spiritual well being on this planet. So now, bridging into 2024, we saw the market starting to split into two different sectors. In 2025, it really split, and we are in two different spaces in what is fast approaching a multi-trillion-dollar industry by 2028. So one side of the marketplace represents high tech, the medical complex, industrial complex, hyper optimized and hyper alpha consumer expensive market. This is exemplified by trends like biohacking, longevity clinics, exclusive residential facilities, so on and so forth. This part of the market is juxtaposed against a more average consumer who has a desire for low pressure, less relentlessly self-optimizing, I might in fact say anti-optimization, low tech, less expensive, where social and mental well-being matters the most. We saw the seeds of this group of consumer planted very specifically over the pandemic when people were stepping out into nature to take walks. And that led to people going on pilgrimages, and that led to people joining running clubs and swimming clubs and tapping into a lot of aspects of wellness that are ancient. People out in nature enjoying themselves and restoring themselves in a way that was anti-optimization in a sense. When we're thinking about what is going on, what are the factors that are driving market forces, that are driving consumer forces? Stress is the number one thing that is impacting consumer behavior. The world is very stressful right now, from rising climate disasters like we saw the Los Angeles wildfires that impacted so many members of our community. In 2024, there were over 50 divisive elections that were held globally. And generally speaking, we never recovered from the trauma and impact of the pandemic. And suffice to say, people are not okay, and they are looking to the wellness market itself to provide healing and grounding in the face of uncertainty. And this is very specifically driving and impacting the growth of the wellness industry. The wellness market has reached a new height of 6.3 trillion. And by 2028, it is going to drive to 9 trillion. Now imagine that 9 trillion split in two, and that's where we're going to go today. So typically, when I do this annual report, I touch on, 7 to 10 trends. This year is different. The market split is so significant that I'm only going to take two main trends, and I'm going to drill down today on the first one, and we're going to have to come back and do a part two, because the two trends representing the split in the market are so significant that they each deserve their own attention in terms of really big pillars that are going to change the way that we work. So again, we have those two groups, those chasing optimization and those who are squarely anti-optimization, looking for a return to core aspects of civilization that had been lost along the way. So today we're going to take the first trend, which is a return to analog everything, and we're going to trace different kinds of impacts that we're starting to see, so that as a collective of coaches, we can begin to wrap our head around what is going to be a tremendous shift in the way that our global population will move as it relates to wellness. This trend was not born in a vacuum, and it will continue to grow and morph as our relationship to wellness, stress, and our global ecology continues to evolve. So, let's take a look at the influences that are driving the return to analog everything. The smartphone arrived in 2008, and over the last 17 years, its existence has blurred the line between home and work, has revolutionized connectivity, it has revolutionized virtual relationships. It has also caused the substitution of social engagement for social media and heralded the rise of algorithms that distill information into very specific interest bubbles. And this has caused division, outrage, endless controversy. And this fact is what is causing the great log off. Folks are aware that the distinction between real and not real is quite literally disappearing before our eyes. Very significantly, the Oxford University Press named brain rot as its 2024 word of the year. And it is, by definition, the deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state from the overconsumption of bad and trivial online content. Brain rot is now something that society is contending with due to tech adaptation that has taken place over the last 17 years. None of us could predict that we would be here now, and yet here we are. So, what coaches need to consider is that the wellness market itself rose alongside of digital expansion by providing alternatives of in-person connection, stress reduction, and human touch. This is a huge strength of the wellness market. This is a massive part of what we do as coaches that nothing can replace: the human element, the human connection, the human knowing. According to the Global Wellness Summit, the backlash against the attention and sanity-destroying digital world is becoming dramatically more intense. And this is because since the pandemic, things have gotten worse. With the pandemic, things moved online. Outings to restaurants and stores became takeout. Trips to theaters became streaming services. Remote work killed office life. Gyms became online fitness. Now, there has been an uptick in real life experiences as we began to emerge from the pandemic, but it has not swung back completely to where we once were. And experiences and social wellness post-pandemic, the data tells us that most people are still spending more time than they were previously in front of screens. So the movement is swinging where people are saying screens are bad, I want to get away from them. Now, we're coaches. We deal with goals. We deal with habits. We deal with behavior. And what we need to be very aware of at the outset of this trend taking hold is that as folks grapple with their relationships with technology and in-person interactions, there are going to be some really gnarly themes that are springing up. Themes of addiction, themes of fear, themes of unease regarding stranger danger and interpersonal interaction, and uncertainty around how to behave, how to show up, and how folks are being perceived are going to be front and center as people struggle to redefine their relationship with their existence on this planet. This is a deeply personal trend that is going to hit us in the stomach at the core of what it means to be human. The prediction from the Global Wellness Summit about the great logging off is they predict that 2025 will be the year that more people will get intentional about disconnecting from an online world that is costing us our minds, our focus, our joy, our humanity, our in-person social lives, and our financial wellness due to shopping addiction. What coaches need to be aware of is that this is about more than just logging off. This is about identity. This is about what we do with our time. This is about what our lived experience is like day in and day out. Gen Z is leading this trend, so are millennials, and people are hungry for pre-digital hobbies and experiences that restore the tactile touch, harnessing our attention and social gratification. Now, it's important to also acknowledge that as coaches, some of us might be too young to remember a world without a smartphone. So there are generations of humans that are dealing with a completely new way of existing for the very first time. And as coaches and as social first responders, a big part of our job is going to be helping with the desensitization and then sensitization to a new way of being in real life in the world, which can be very viscerally affronting if we're not attuned to it. All right. Where does this trend live and what do we need to know about? So, this trend is showing up in the marketplace as structured, social. We're seeing things like no phone classes and clubs, communities and retreats where people are crafting, where they're creating, where they're reading, where they're listening to music, and where they're learning with others. What we need to know as coaches is that these things that were once so central to the way that humans operated are no longer intuitive for folks. Tech addiction is intuitive. The way we use our technology is intuitive. The way that we interact with other humans is no longer intuitive. And a lot of the spaces and places where coaches are expected to show up are as socio-emotional guides within groups to give people permission and modeling around how to interact with each other, whether that's community or group ground rules, facilitated conversations, or coach-led excursions. We're seeing things like old school game playing as a way to introduce appropriate social exchange and social interactions. We're seeing bird watching collectives. All of these things can be combined with coaching experiences, with goal setting, with moving through the world. Analog clubs, salons, and even bars are rewriting the idea of a nightlife that is oftentimes combined with self-care. And the wellness business itself is fostering new and powerful third spaces for people to gather. So all of these are wonderful examples of how coaches can take their personal interests or niche sets to drive community engagement and gathering, as well as fostering connection and growth. So an example, it has been commonplace for a really long time in the world of sexuality coaching for coaches to use game nights as a low stakes way for clients to come together and practice social skills to promote bonding. This has been taking place in the sexuality world for a long, long, long time. And all of the other niche spaces can learn a lot from how this works and introduce game nights for their own client base to work on different skills to promote bonding and so on. Engaging folks in your community does not need to be fancy. Conversation between different people can take place on walks, game nights, over knitting, craft making, and even while gardening. Wellness tourism remains a space where there is a lot of opportunity for coaches to provide bespoke programming for people interested in lifestyle change. This analog trend has been rising for years, and it's not a passing fad. And I think what's really important for folks to know approaching this trend is that it is going to become deeply personal for people who take up the mantle of analog everything. It is going to become a people-led movement that goes beyond the fast-rotting digital world to restore things that we've lost, like human touch, calmness, attention, community-based connection, and the act of creating instead of passively scrolling. I used to travel abroad quite a bit, and I remember landing in England or Ireland, and one of the first things I would do is go to a local pub, and I talk with some locals. So thinking about how we as coaches can bring this to life in our own geographic areas as ways to entrance visitors, community members, clients alike to come together to share different aspects of where we live, what makes our region special. One of my friends in Philadelphia leads a local honey tasting. What a fantastic way to bring folks together to gather, taste some honey, have some conversation, do some self-work, do some self-care. And this sets juxtaposed against what has traditionally been a bar culture that is slowly fading in our society. So how do we need to think about this? Living a more analog life will become a pillar of lifestyle change that is equal in our consciousness to exercise and healthy eating. So I'd like everyone to think for a moment about your relationship with those terms, exercise and healthy eating. When did they start coming into your consciousness? When did those words start coming into your consciousness? How did you know that exercise and healthy eating was good for you, right? So get clear on that and then start to apply it to moving away from digital addiction, because folks are going to start pushing that up to the fore as a pillar. Now, given the addictive nature of technology, coaches who are at the forefront of learning how to help people disconnect in order to reconnect will become really vital in supporting this trend. One of the things that is showing up as a really effective medium for coaches to deliver their message is blogging. And yes, AI will absolutely change the way that we connect to the world around us. And the advance of this technology will also create a paradox where AI is rapidly changing and enhancing what it can do. And then there's going to be that backlag on the other side, that backlash where people are going to say, no, I need to step away from all things digital. And we're also going to be dealing with high levels of AI addiction. So it's going to be this ping pong until we even out in terms of what technology is doing, how the collective consciousness views it, and how we're using it. Choosing the human, choosing the real is going to be increasingly celebrated. And this is a really big change from where we have all been the last 17 years. So let's all get ready. All right. So now from here, we're going to look at the great logging off and some really key examples of the way that this concept will change wellness and our approach to coaching and clients. This is not all the ways. These are just some examples of things that we can expect so we can begin thinking about it in a generative way. First up, workforce wellness is primed to be impacted by the digital detox movement. Workforce wellness is one area where coaches work extensively. It's a pretty big sector within the global wellness industry itself. Global survey after survey reveal that digital connection is creating historic burnout levels and global burnout crises. A group, DHR Global, found recently that 82% 82% of white-collar workers are suffering from burnout, with 58% of those humans citing long hours and overwhelm as the culprit. The vast majority of companies and organizations and workplaces out there have no digital disconnection policies whatsoever. This is an area where we're going to see change. If you're a coach that works in industry, you will need to be aware of your client's relationship with connection with the organization's relationship with digital connection with these stakeholders, relationship with digital connection. Basecamp was one of the first companies out there to enforce a fixed work hours policy, encouraging employees to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then after that to turn off all notifications and avoid all after-hours pings. This led initially to a 30% increase in employee satisfaction and a 20% boost in productivity. Digital disconnection will become a major part of workforce wellness initiatives. Again, there's an addictive factor here we all need to be aware of, and this digital detox trend is representative of 50% of how the wellness market desires a slower wellness experience where simpler, less optimizing, more focus on socio-emotional well-being matters the most. So this is this big divide. 50% of the population wants this to come to their workplaces. Another area that's going to be impacted by the great log off is addiction and mindfulness. Two big themes that are hitting coaching is the concept of what addiction itself is. And there's also at the same time a massive trend of a growing curiosity about what it means to be sober curious. And these two things are lining up at the same time, where bar culture is dying and the definitions that we espouse to addiction as a society are changing. Addiction no longer means just alcohol, drugs. It also means food, shopping, phones, porn. Addiction is becoming demystified and destigmatized. We're starting to see that it's not the humans, it's the society, it's the systems that are causing us to form unhealthy attachments to more than just substances. In the UK, there's a group called the Priority Healthcare Group, and this group has started offering treatment for behavioral addictions to gambling, sex, internet, and shopping. One of the most popular programs is a treatment that includes art therapy, Pilates, and more in an effort to not only help patients unplug from their addictions and devices, but to reform relationships with other healthy habits. Coaching is front and center in these modalities. Habit is an organization that deals with optimization coaches and substance use behavioral dependencies. It launched earlier this month. It's an affordable coaching service, and it's designed to help individuals build consistent everyday habits. Consistent everyday habits is a lot of the bread and butter of what we do in coaching, and this is a space where we're going to not only have to be aware as coaches, as we coach the person, not the problem, of how addiction habits might form, dopamine, nervous system response, so on and so forth. But we also need to know what the best practices are in our space so that we can assist folks with goals that create lasting behavioral change, whether their goals are related to wellness, fitness, sleep, screen time, nutrition, parenting, alcohol, tobacco use, finances, career, and so much more. There's a lot of platforms and businesses that are springing up right now and creating jobs in the space of coaching. So if we click around, we'll start to see where these organizations are popping up, what they're doing, and how they are doing it. Another area that has been long overdue for intervention and impact within the wellness marketplace is teenagers. Um, and this is, trigger warning here. This is sad. So if anybody doesn't want to be sad, mute me for the next couple minutes. But the global population of humans who are teenagers, which is age 11 to 18, are suffering. Collectively, they are facing unprecedented levels of diseases of despair, which include anxiety, depression, addiction, and suicidality. In 2021, this was declared a national crisis by the US Surgeon General, and it has been suggested that the epidemic numbers of children in the West who are receiving mental health diagnoses are not only skyrocketing, but they're a symptom of something that's not wrong with all of them individually, but something that is wrong and unhealthy in our society itself that needs collective attention. And this is where the trend is circling around. So, what's happening? Teenagers deeply live with the mental anguish of climate and financial crises, technological disruptions to focus on attention, political extremism, mass shootings, and the toxic and devastating impact of social media, bullying, so on and so forth. Also, ultra consumption and overconsumption of ultra processed food and a sedentary screen based lifestyle in the Western world are aggravating the situation. Teens have not traditionally been a population that is targeted by the wellness sectors, and that is rapidly changing. So if coaches are picking their heads up and say, woo, where is the fresh market? Working with teens is it. Now, with mental health challenges reaching crisis levels, a concerted focus on teen wellness within our industry is both a responsibility and an opportunity to foster healthier, happier lives for our future global society. As we're thinking about this, what coaches need to know about teen wellness is that tech induced loneliness is a real issue for young people who came of age with full-blown tech adaptation. These are humans who don't know life before a cell phone. These are humans who don't know what it's like to have to go to somebody's house and ring the doorbell if you want to talk to them. This is a foreign concept for a lot of folks in this age demographic in the West. Teens have an over-reliance on digital communication that can result in feelings of real-world isolation, loneliness, emotional disconnection, anxiety, and mental exhaustion. Continuous social media exposure has made teens vulnerable to damaging content. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry says that 90% of teens aged 13 to 17 use social media, many for up to 9 hours a day. 80% of teens experience social media pressures to look a certain way and present themselves according to a certain kind of stylistic presentation. In particular, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat are the main culprits. Social media overuse can hijack the brain's attention. And for young people, this can be especially damaging with the dopamine reward systems, contributing to a sense of hopelessness. And this is where we're seeing a lot of increases in teen suicide. US Surgeon Generals have written widely about this and called it a youth mental health emergency. Adolescents with over 3 hours of daily social media use double their risk of anxiety and depression. As of mid-2003, the average daily use was 4.8 hours. Now, here's our opportunity. Wellness initiatives have shown incredible success for adults in improving sleep, reducing stress, prompting healthier habits, changing the world of work, changing the world of connection, and relationships. There is a tremendous opportunity to impact the mental wellness trajectory of a generation. There has been a resounding call to the world of wellness to create specific programming to meet the physical, emotional, and wellness needs of teens. Wellness interventions need to be able to empower teens with essential life skills and to support their transition into adulthood. Early leaders in this space are looking at approaches that focus on cultivating emotional intelligence and fostering physical activity and mindfulness habits. It's important for coaches to take note that initiatives like this represent the next generation of wellness practitioners as family wellness specialists. These typically combine physical activities, functional fitness, outdoor sports with mindful practices like meditation and creative arts. Again, we're seeing here the same return to tactile initiatives that we're seeing with the grown-ups. Also, a focus on emotional intelligence can really help teens to understand and manage their emotions, build resilience, and strengthen interpersonal communication skills. A fantastic example also comes to us from the UK. The UK has been one of the leaders in tackling loneliness as an epidemic globally. It's an organization called Rewire, and it was founded by a transformational life coach, engineer, and leadership specialist, Natasha Richardson. And this initiative seeks to empower and educate teen girls aged 13 to 16 to develop a strong sense of self in an increasingly digitized world. And what a fantastic example to see a coach leading this charge in a nationally recognized way. Natasha Richardson says, "We teach the life skills that don't get taught at school, that help teenagers learn more about themselves, more about the emotions and the world they live in by using somatic practices, including sound baths, yoga, meditation, breath work, combined with foraging, campfires, wild walks, and the aim is to nurture happy, healthy, strong, confident, resilient teenagers." Now, this trend is not just relegated to young people alone. It is going to be a big trend. And what we're seeing here, again, is the rise in family specialists and coaches, specifically working with parents as well, who are struggling to deal with their teenagers. In many cases, parents have no idea what to do, and they are suffering too. Where we are with the impact of tech adoption and meta polycrises in our world is very, very much like the Wild West. And we need folks to come into this space to form teams of different practitioners that can work with folks over periods of time to help make sense of the information that they're constantly receiving. Ultimately, coaches are going to be helping parents and teens put their electronics down and get used to a different way of life where everything begins to be calm. If you're interested in this topic, if you're interested in working with this population, but you're not sure where to start, one of Yale University's most popular classes, Psychology and the Good Life, which is taught by Professor Laurie Santos, now has a teen-focused version. And since January 2023, over 160,000 learners have joined the Science of Wellbeing for Teens, where evidence-based strategies are adapted to address teen challenges, social stress, family conflict, anxiety, rumination among them, offering practical tips and self-compassion for mindfulness. And the ultimate goal is to broaden the science of well-being for teens with tailored content, including TikTok length meditations and short form videos. More and more professionals are moving into this space to impact this world. And there are so many great programs that are coming out based in mindfulness, stress reduction, and coaching. Evidence suggests that with consistent support from families, schools, communities, and wellness spaces, teen mental health can improve, and there needs to be tangible guidance and a sense of being heard. And grown-ups can really lead the way in terms of what we are doing with our own relationship with technology, logging off, reforming our relationships with each other, our communities, our habits, our hobbies, what we love to do, our experiences, our joys, and looking, of course, to nature to say, hey, we're part of a broader ecological whole. How can we come together in true partnership and support of that ecological whole, whether it's multi-generational or multi-species? we have we have a couple minutes left, and I just want to end on a positive note. Is that we're here having this conversation. And yes, we're over Zoom, but we are a community of real people, real coaches with real talents, real skills, and we all really deeply care. And what keeps me going is that I know that each of you are going to create impact in your worlds and your families, in the lives of your children, your neighbors, your clients, and that I know that that will go on exponentially, and that as we all face the future together and continue to share information, continue to support each other, continue to lift each other up with confidence and joy, we will be able to collectively have a joyful, generative experience and really make a difference with our time and our legacy. So I want to say thank you. Now I'm crying, but hey, why not? It's 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. Why not have a good cry, right? Um, All right, folks. Well, we're right at the top of the hour. It has been lovely to pass this hour with you. Thank you so much for your presence and your attention. And hit me up. Let me know what you need. We'll keep going. We'll keep talking, and I'll keep supporting all of you in your work.